Wow. All I have to say is wow. Mandalorian episode 8. Look, I'm going to do a separate review on the entire Mandalorian season 1, but this is the season finale, and wow, it's just it's mind blowing. It really is. Mandalorian is unquestionably the absolute best product, in my opinion, that we've seen since Disney bought Star Wars. Now, I'm not talking about video games, though. I mean, like, movies and TV shows. Mandalorian, these 8 episodes, and I'm going to talk about this more in the season review, are of such quality. And this episode, what a perfect way to end the season. And we're definitely not done. Of course, like I do with these Mandalorian spoilers, or these Mandalorian reviews, they will have spoilers. Now, this episode was directed by Taika Waititi, and you can tell right off the hop that it's him because the opening scene of this episode is these 2 stormtroopers talking, and they're having this kind of witty banter. And it's really fun to watch because, it's like what they said in Clerks. A lot of these guys who work for the Empire, they're not inherently bad people. They're just trying to do a job. It's like when you join the military. Like the people who join militaries for foreign countries and things like that, they're not all terrible people necessarily. They're just following what they think is right. And you have to remember, the Empire had a lot of propaganda during the time of the reign of the Empire, and a lot of that's covered in the Rebel show, with Empire Day and things like that. So they shows these 2 guys talking back and forth, and he's like, I want to see the child. And they're like, no, we can't see it. It's for Gideon. And the last episode ended with Gideon showing up, Moff Gideon showing up, and demanding that Mando hand over the child. But what ends up happening is the child escapes, but then stormtroopers got it. So the episode starts with that, but they're quickly stomped by IG-11, and IG-11 shows up and just mauls these guys. This episode pulls no punches. This is one of the most hardcore episodes of The Mandalorian, one of the most hardcore Star Wars products ever. IG-11 is the MVP. Chapter 8 is called The Redemption, and I had first wondered what that title could actually mean, but after seeing what IG-88, that's a different droid, IG-11 does in this episode, it really is the redemption. I mean, he comes in, he saves the child. Had it not been for IG-11, they would have had no chance. He is the hero of this episode. He really, really is. And what I loved about this episode is that it bookended the very first episode. If you remember the first episode, you had IG-11 in that huge and awesome shootout, and everyone was hooked to it. And in this episode, you have kind of the same thing, but you've got IG-11 working with Mando and working with, his friends to take out the Empire. I mean, there's so many stormtroopers all over the place, and he comes in and the 4 of them just wreck shop, and it was so awesome to watch. I mean, this is what you would call an epic finale. I mean, they went in and just had one of the best shootouts in Star Wars. I mean, it was so well done. Taika Waititi is so good because the comedy aspect of this is only at the beginning of the episode. The rest of it is just hardcore raw shit, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was just fantastic. So they reveal in this episode not only Mandalorian's face, they unmask him because he's injured and IG-11 has to heal him. And yes, it is Pedro Pascal under the mask, at least for that scene. And they also reveal his real name and his backstory. It turns out that, which we all kind of suspected this, he is not a Mandalorian from Mandalore. And we find out it's pretty much confirmed, even though most Star Wars fans kind of knew this. To be a Mandalorian, you don't have to be from Mandalore. He says being a Mandalorian is a creed. In other words, sort of like the Jedi, where, you don't have to be from the planet Jeddah. You just have to learn the ways of the Jedi. Same thing here. And the Jedi are mentioned in this episode, too, about an ancient war, between the Jedi and the Mandalorians, and how, the space sorcerers, as they're called, or an ancient conflict. I don't remember exactly the way it was worded. And then that, of course, the big ending, the big finale. I'm going to get to that here in a minute, but the big final scene. But they show his face, his backstory. He was on a planet that was going to battle with I guess it was the Empire, but it looks like it may have been the Separatists, because it was a droid army. Maybe when he was really little, but I don't think it was the Separatists at all. I think it was actually the Empire, who was probably still using droids for certain battles. And it was cool to see those droids back. I mean, I was expecting to see some more droids in Episode 9, but they couldn't fit it in. It already had too much stuff going on in that movie. But when it comes to Mandalorian, yeah. So his parents hide him, and of course his parents get killed, which is classic Star Wars. And then one of the Mandalorians rescues him and kind of adopts him into their guild, which this is a story that's been told time and time again. I mean, Moses from the Old Testament had a very similar story, and maybe not with Mandalorians, but you get what I'm saying. Like the whole adopted child, it's been done before. It's been done before. It's not anything that's too over the top and outlandish, but it does fit the universe of Star Wars, and it does kind of explain who he is. His name is Din Djarin. That's his actual name. And of course, like I said, they explain how, being a Mandalorian, you don't have to be from the planet Mandalore. And they do talk about like the Empire going in and, what happened with the fall of Mandalore. There's a lot of good stuff in this episode, a lot of good lore. And it sort of rewards you for being a Star Wars fan. This is, the opposite of Last Jedi. The show rewards you for watching stuff like Clone Wars and Rebels, where you become more associated, you become more familiar with things like, the Mandalorian and what Gideon has, which I thought was phenomenal. There's going to be so many people who are watching this show who have no idea what that is and the significance of it. You have to watch Rebels to really get it, but Gideon has the Darksaber, and the Darksaber is what it is basically is at one point there was a Mandalorian that got trained in the arts of the Jedi. I don't remember how long ago it was, but he created a special lightsaber called the Darksaber. So it sort of is like the hybrid between the Jedi and the Mandalorian. The Mandalorian people, that is. And the Darksaber was kept in the Jedi Temple for, centuries, I want to say. Or decades. It was a very, very long time. And then in the Rebels TV show, Sabine, one of the main characters, for those of you who haven't seen the show, it falls into her hands. And so we see the Darksaber for the first time in Rebels and the whole backstory behind it. Well, not the entire thing, but some of it. And now we have Gideon, who, I mean, first of all, that whole finale with, Mando getting his rocket pack, and then that fight with a TIE fighter where he had to put the thermal detonator on the TIE fighter and blow it up. And, because Gideon was coming in for blood. That was great. And then, he crashes and he cuts his way out of the TIE fighter with the Darksaber. Now, how he got the Darksaber, we don't know. It's probably going to be answered either in Season 2 or in one of the books that we have to buy, because Disney loves to push these damn books on us. Personally, I really am not going to buy any more of these Disney books. I'll just read it on Wikipedia or something. I'll just do that because I'm tired of them trying to milk this. But again, I'm thinking they're going to explain it in Season 2. I hope they do, because Season 2 for Mandalorian has already been confirmed. People, I guess, were so impressed with Season 1 before it even went live, before it even went on the air for the public, that they went ahead and gave Jon Favreau the nod to do Season 2. But man, this is just fantastic. Honestly, it's absolutely fantastic. Jon Favreau is incredible. The IG-11 sacrifice was very moving and very touching, and I love how the Mandalorian's voice changes. Pedro Pascal plays it really well. And IG-11's like, don't be sad. And he's like, I'm not sad. He's like, no, I'm a nurse. I can tell if you're sad or not. You know what I mean? That was awesome. And he was, this is a droid who he hated just a few episodes ago, and now he's sad that the droid's going to sacrifice himself. But man, what an explosion. Also, I love the R2 unit that was in the little bin in the lava little pool thing, how it had like arms and legs or whatever, like you're a subversion of expectation in a good way. You're thinking it's just an R2 unit, but it's actually the droid that pushes the boat for in the lava. So that was kind of cool. A little bit weird though, but like sort of the location of everything, but it worked out for me. I like this episode a lot. It was a great season finale. Mando now knows he has to go find the home world of the Yoda race, Baby Yoda's race. And he has to deliver the child to them for protection, or to at least the Jedi. But the problem is, the Jedi are all gone. The Jedi don't exist anymore. So does this mean that we're going to see Mark Hamill in Season 2? Is he going to hand over Baby Yoda? Are we going to see a cameo for Mark Hamill training the new students? Are we going to see a young Adam Driver playing Kylo? Probably not. We're probably not going to see that. Plus, he wouldn't even be born yet. It's only been a few years after Return of the Jedi. But we might see Mark Hamill with some de-aging tech in the early days of the new Jedi Order. I mean, there's a lot of things they could do. We're not going to see Adam Driver, but maybe we're going to see, maybe he'll mention it, oh, my sister just had a baby. They could do stuff like that. They could tie stuff in like that. Or if not, we'll maybe see, some other Jedi, or at least not Jedi, but Force sensitives, in other parts of the galaxy where he can deliver the child to. That's going to be the story arc of season 2, is he has to find the homeworld of the child. Plus, Gideon is still after him. He probably thinks that Gideon is dead, but he's definitely not. Anyways, what a good episode. What a great show The Mandalorian is. There is hope, folks, for Disney Star Wars. I am honestly starting to think that, well, this should probably be where Star Wars goes from now on. I think TV shows are probably better than movies, if you ask me. For right now. I'm not saying they're never going to do a movie again, because they obviously have one booked for a few years from now. But I think the TV shows is the way to go. Thanks again. Let me know what you thought about Mandalorian Episode 8, Chapter 8. And we'll talk very soon. Love you.